It was the 4th of November 2020 when my phone rang. Andrew was working in Ireland and been out walking in the mountains during time off, with obviously far too much time on his hands to be thinking about what crazy sailing project he could do before his 50th. He called me the week previous about a guy who had sailed across the Atlantic in the smallest recorded sailing boat. A week's gone by and he's located said boat and been talking to the family of the man with the record. Tom McNally, it turns out, is a bit of a legend, an amazing engineer, boat builder, and held the record for sailing the smallest sailing boat across the Atlantic Ocean. The record was broken again by an American, and Tom was in the process of building a new boat to take back the record. Tom sadly passed away in 2017, and so the boat was never finished and laid in his family's back garden. That was until Andrew tracked it down. I can't believe you've just done that.
Never mind.
Take two?
Not
Take
three.
Two. No, not three, two. We are in Whitehaven.
Yeah.
We've just come back from a couple of days sailing on the mini transat. Your mini transat, which is how big?
6.5 metres long.
6.5 metres long, and the boat Big C that you're going to be sailing across the Atlantic Ocean is
A tad smaller, at just over 1 metre.
And yesterday, last night and today have just been, for me, painful. Absolutely painful. I've got a sore bum, I'm cold and wet, and you're going to sail a boat smaller across the Atlantic Ocean. How far is that?
1,900 miles.
1,900 miles.
Yeah. I think we did probably 50 last night.
Yeah, let's not go into that. It's just madness. You best tell us what is Big C?
So, Big C, what it is a vessel that's been specifically designed by Tom McNally to cross the Atlantic to break the record. He broke the record back in '93 and then wanted to retake the record after it was broken. It's about 6 months after he broke the record. Now I've taken this on and can break this record and bring it back to the UK, where it belongs.
Where it belongs, yeah. And just to put things in perspective, we're sat on a 42-foot sailing boat at the minute, and we're in the cockpit at the back of the boat, and your boat is smaller than this cockpit.
Well, it's actually not just smaller than this cockpit, it's actually smaller than this bit here. I actually looked at it earlier thinking quite enviously how much room I could have in there. It'd be fantastic, but the trouble is that doesn't break the record, so I've had to go small.
Crazy. Right, back to Tom McNally. Just mentioned Tom McNally. What was Tom McNally? What's his story?
So Tom McNally was basically known as the crazy Liverpudlian sailor, and what he wanted to do was break records and sail. He didn't do it for any massive reason other than he was in his mind, that's what he wanted to do. He had a very different life to work. He worked as a fine art teacher, so he was teaching fine art, and then in his spare time he was building these vessels to cross the Atlantic, and he built them out of I believe one was a bit of a cupboard and a bit of a washing machine and things like that. This vessel that he started to build on, Big C, which is the one that I'm going to take across the Atlantic, he built in a slightly different vein, and it is solid. So what he's done is used all his experience from the last vessels that he created and built this absolutely amazing vessel.
Now Tom got the record, the first record.
Yes.
In
'93. March '93.
March '93, and then that was taken back to America by
Hugo Varlin. September '93.
Right, and so this boat now, Big C, this is the boat that was built by Tom to take on this challenge and bring the record home.
Yes.
But we sadly lost him in 2017.
Yeah.
With cancer. Yeah. And Big C is obviously a part of that.
Part of it.
So that's you've taken the boat now. You how you found the boat, I will never know how you found the boat. It's a bit of a mad one, but you've taken the boat on and redesigned it to an extent to fit your frame.
Yes, yeah. So Tom was, even though I think he was actually about the same height as me, his legs and his body was different sizes to me, so I've had to do lots of different modifications to make the boat actually fit my frame. I'm slightly broader shouldered and things like that. So we've had to do a fair few adjustments, and obviously its length as well, to get it so that it will be the shortest vessel to cross the Atlantic. It's going to be amazing.
It's going to be amazing. It is. The Mini as well, back to the Mini that we've been out on. It was only a couple of years ago that you did a little solo adventure in one of them, the 21 foot long, which I thought was crazy at that time. And what did you do with that one?
So what I wanted to do was raise a load of money for my daughter's school. Children since the 70s, I think, have lost about 40% of their playtime, and so what it means is that they need more stuff to actually make the most of their playtime. So what we found is that school, brilliant school, but it had limited amount of things for the kids to do at break time, so there was queues, waiting things. So what I did was I raised money to buy some big plastic, and we're talking of like actually about as long as the Mini, about 6 meters long, big trains, cars and things like that for the kids to play on. And actually to this day my daughter still quite often comes back and tells me, "Dad, I paid in the train today." Age 9, it's just crazy, but I thought it was only going to be something for when she was like 6. But anyway, they all love it, and so I took my Mini around Iceland from here, from Whitehaven.
From Whitehaven, I remember it vividly. We did the Facebook for you on that, and kept up with your weather as well, your weather forecasting as you went round. And we were using Spot.
Yeah, we had a spot,
so that kept a spot tracker, and that kept we could dot watch where you were at that time.
So what it does is that pings every, I think I said it's half an hour.
Yeah.
So it pings.
Except for when you get up towards the Arctic Circle.
It seems to have an Arctic blip.
Yeah.
So I didn't blip.
We lost you for quite a few days when you were up the top there.
Yeah, it's just to keep you on your toes, and also to make sure that Tracy wasn't going to cash in on
to the point where we had to phone up the Icelandic Coast Guard.
Yeah.
And the Icelandic Coast Guard found you on his computer, and contacted you, and contacted me at the same time. Yeah. Technology, amazing. Yeah. What were the biggest things to overcome on that trip?
Obviously there were a fair few things on the passage that we had. One of the biggest things, not one of the biggest things, but one of the bigger things was going to sleep, waking up 20 minutes later, hearing all the alarms going off, beep, 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 and then to find out that I've got, I think it was 184 targets on my AIS, which is basically automatic identification system that normally just picks up vessels. But up in Iceland, the fishermen, each marker for the buoys has AIS on it, so I saw those, jibed, unprepared really, and damaged a spreader, so had to call in for some repairs, which actually my wife managed, just through the power of social media, find someone who would take my mast off, weld it for me, put the mast back, and then let me sail away at a cost.
Oh, cost, yeah. Cost.
Icelandic cost.
Not the cheapest place on the planet.
No.
So back to Big C, I think, where are we up to with the build at the moment? So we've had some filming done this week, haven't we? We've done a little shoot a couple of times. We've been into the workshop, and we've had Poppy, your 9-year-old daughter, and she's been helping do radio calls. Yeah. So what's the radio? What have you done there for your radio system?
Okay. So what I always do in all my vessels are like a backup of a backup if I can. Obviously this we are really limited with on space, but what I've managed to do is I've got solar panels which are going to be my prime power generation source. But internally, if we've got a 5-day storm or something like that, which is not unheard of in the North Atlantic, I've got a hand-wound generator, so I can forget the solar panels on the back, I can wind the generator, and what that does is, without a battery, it will go straight to the radio, and it will actually and allow me to use the radio. Right, so what we've got is a hand-wound generator here that's going through a unit, and that's charging the radio. So it comes on straight away, and then what we'll do is we'll do a radio check.
Hi, this is Poppy. We are doing a radio check. Over.
So I've got some things like that in the vessel to make it safe.
The other big question we've had people asking us about is the water. What are you going to do for water? Obviously with such a small vessel you can't carry so much water.
No. So what I've got is a desalinator. Okay, so this is my desalinator. That's going to be located down here. It's obviously all going to be bolted in. And then what I'll be doing is, just to get the water from it, I've literally just got to pump it like that. So it's all pivoted at about the same angle and position as my elbow. So I can literally just pump away, and I should be getting fresh water coming out of here into a tube into my daily drinking pot. So it's a manually pumped desalinator. There are obviously 12-volt ones and things, but I just haven't got the batteries for it. And I actually need to do some exercise on board. So I've got a manual desalinator that I should pump, and what that does is that pumps in salt water from outside, puts it through a filter to filter out any plastics or any debris in the water, and then it goes into the desalinator. And what that does is that at massively high pressure it pushes the water through this membrane, and what happens is any salt crystals get onto the membrane, and those get washed away as brine, and that gets thrown out, that gets automatically pumped out over the side. It's nothing, it's no worries, because it's just salt, concentrated salt really. But then the water that passes through the membrane then will be coming out, so that I can actually drink that, and I'll be having a container on board I can drink, so I know that I'm drinking enough every day.
So in general with the build up, so where are you up to with the build now?
Obviously we did the sea trials a couple of weeks ago now.
Yep.
Went absolutely fantastically. We needed a bit of extra ballast in the boat, so what we've done is I've currently got a few little alterations that I'm doing on the rig. Only minor ones, but I just wanted to do some alterations on it. And what we're also doing is building a new keel, so it's basically a new shoe that goes on the bottom. So what we're doing is, as the vessel's only 1 metre long, what we've got to do is get the ballast absolutely spot on. So rather than casting a full keel, which means that then I've got it as a big lump and it's kind of, we think it's right, this new shoe underneath, what I'm going to do is drop lead into it in different intervals. So if we go out on the next sea trials, and what we're going to do is, from the weight that we added on the last sea trials, I'll be replicating exactly where that is. But what I'm doing at the moment is going through all the photos of how the vessel was performing, how she was leaning forward, backwards and things with my weight, and I'm just basically just adjusting where I'm going to be putting the weight.
What else are you going to have on the boat? What else is on board the boat? I know we
for safety or for food?
For safety and communication, navigation.
Okay, so as the vessel's so short, it doesn't actually need a tricolour masthead light, well, it actually, because it's effectively almost a buoy, so it has to have it has a white light on the masthead instead. So what we've got is, we could have a tricolour on there, but it doesn't need a tricolour. So we've gone for a tricolour, for people that don't know, is the red and the green light that sits on top of the boat. It tells it's port and starboard. Yeah. So yours just has one singular white light. One singular white light. The advantage of that is it is just fractionally less powerful draining on the batteries. And also, it's actually, intensity is a little bit brighter. So it's a double whammy really, it's a double winner for us. So obviously it's the most sensible thing to do, just have one bright light. And obviously there's going to be reflective bits on the sail, not necessarily on the sail, on the masts and things like that. So
what are you going to do for power other than your generator? Okay,
obviously we've got the solar as well.
Yeah.
But what we're going to have is we're going to have batteries built into the hull, and literally right under my bum are going to be the batteries. From the sea trials we've modified some things around, and we've added a little bit extra ballast. So what we've done is we've removed some of the batteries, because the batteries aren't as heavy as the lead that we're going to be putting down there, although the batteries are heavy. but I don't want them to be so far down. I want them to be so that I can see to them, and if anything goes wrong, I can access them and get on there. So we've got the batteries. There'll be 2 batteries in there, quite small batteries, but quite high power batteries.
And they're obviously there to run the lights and your navigation. What navigation have you got?
So what we're going to have is we're currently talking with quite a big UK supplier of marine navigation equipment, and what we're going to be doing there is we're going to be having a standalone transponder. So that's going to be basically a Class B transponder, so that throws out a signal saying where I am to all the other vessels, but it also receives in as well. So I'll have a little screen on the unit, and what that's going to be doing is going to be showing me basically a circle with me in the middle and other vessels and which way they're going and collisions and everything like that. Separate to that, we're unsure which way is best at the moment, but we think what we're going to do is have a VHF, a normal radio for marine use, that has also got built-in AIS receiver. So should the AIS transceiver fail for some reason, we don't know, water ingress over 60, 70, 80 days, condensation, everything can have a huge impact. Obviously we're sealing everything to make sure that it has as little impact as possible. But these 2 units, if one fails, I've got another one that's a backup. The VHF is obviously as this standalone unit, the transponder is a standalone unit, but I'll also be having a handheld VHF as well. So both of those are duplicated.
Food. What are you doing for food for however many days it's going to take you?
Yeah.
How many days are we looking at?
If it was absolute perfect conditions the whole way across, and I would love it to be, I'd love it, touch wood, it'll be 60 days, but in all honesty it's going to be probably 75, 80 days. So what we've got food wise is most of the boat is round or curved surfaces, so we're not buying in food bars or anything like that. What we're going to do is we're going to be using a similar recipe, that's the word, a similar recipe to some of the other bars. And what we were doing is we were making those bars up, and what we were doing, making them up at home, moulding them put them into bags and then moulding them into the hull. So what I'll do is when I'm hungry, per day, just take out one of the bags, and that is my daily rations.
Effectively eating your own boat.
Well, we did think that's how that started in one of the newspapers, because what we were looking at doing was having a really, really thin carbon fibre seat moulded to my bag, and then to make it strong, even though carbon is exceptionally strong, moulding the food in the back, so it reinforces the seat and it means we can make the seat lighter. Since then we've decided on some slightly different ways of things, so we're actually going to be putting it into the 12 water compartments that we've got on the boat. So we've got loads of compartments on the boat to hold all the food and everything we want.
We've coming in today, we had a phone call from, was it St John's?
Yes.
In Newfoundland.
Yes.
We're supposed to be taking the boat to.
Yeah, the harbour in St John's. Very, very kind of excited, helpful to start with. And that's themselves. They've now had to go to their regional office, and their regional office has unfortunately said, you've got a massive fishing boat basin there. You're going to have loads of boats going in and out all the time, all commercial boats as well. It's the biggest time of the year for crab fishing.
Yeah, crab season.
So they've unfortunately said that we can't go from there. So we're now on the lookout for other places. We'll find
somewhere. Yeah, I'm sure you will.
First of all, I'll be speaking to St John's themselves. We've been out on their radio. They're very interested in what we're doing, and hopefully we'll get some else. Well, no, not hopefully. We will. It's just finding it. It's making the contacts. First thing tomorrow morning, I shall be on the call on the phone, trying to find out something.
Where are we with funding? Where are you up to with funding? Because I know we're trying to get a bit of sponsorship.
Where are we with funding? We're not anywhere with funding.
We're not anywhere.
We're personal funding. So far,
deep pockets.
Not anymore. So what I've done is I wanted to make sure that the vessel worked. So what I've done is, until the sea trials, I haven't been approaching anyone for funding. What we've done now is the sea trials. We know the boat works, the boat is going to sail and it's going to get across the Atlantic and it's not going to be a problem. What we're doing now is starting to approach companies for it. So we've had some interesting conversations with some people about what we could do with it, and there's some amazing technology out there and some amazing interest because all the magazines and all the press have taken it. It's unfortunate someone hasn't come on board straight away because it's been in all of the magazines, it's been on BBC News, it's been on news radio stations, it's been everywhere, not just in England or around the world really. And actually an 8-page article in a sailing magazine in Germany coming out very soon. So there's huge media interest in it. So we just want someone to come on board to take it. We've got a huge sail plan. We've had your actual own video. I think it's had about 30,000 views now, and the news agency that started it started the whole thing rolling. I think this has had about 170,000 now. So we've got interest in it. We've got huge numbers day in, day out. People are coming onto our Facebook, Instagram. They're all interested in it, but it's just captured people's imagination.
It really has. The publicity is getting ridiculous now. It's building.
It's building. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame.
We went for a walk and met someone on the beach.
Oh, you're the guy. Yeah, that was funny. Yeah,
it's just building. It's building.
It's a massive challenge what you're taking on. What's your strengths? Because obviously, you do a bit of sail making. I've watched you jumping all over the boat over the last couple of days. I've watched you do it on previous sails we've been on, and you're like a gazelle. And mounting goats up on the decks and things. Your confidence is absolutely incredible, but your knowledge as well of sailing is just seems endless.
I've just been involved with boating and sailing all my life. First trip out in a boat was my dad's offshore race powerboat with a inner tube tied around my waist, and it was a 50-50, you come up the right way or you drown kind of thing. So and they had a boat shop and everything, so I've been involved with it all my life. Obviously I make sails, so I know exactly what I want out of the sails.
I've watched you splicing ropes today.
Splicing. So rigging, things like that, I've always done that.
I've had you the mast there. You've been up the mast as well. The last couple of days.
The thing with it is, you've got to be able to do it with everything. Obviously, on big sea, I'm not going to be able to have the spares that I would normally like. So what I'm doing is making sure that as many things are the same size. So if I've got bolts, I've got all the same bolts all the way through the boat vessel. All my design side of things, I'm working on, obviously the strongest shape is triangular, no matter in what form really. So almost everything on the boat, if you look at the rig, from the mast, all the rigging is triangulated just to increase the strength, and that's all come from my product design background.
Yeah. Any fears? Fears?
The North Atlantic is renowned for it's tough. It's tough, and it can be tough, and it can be brutal. And you go on YouTube, you see the videos of the horrendous seas that you get out there. Obviously, I'm apprehensive with it, but the boat is solid.
How tough she is? She is solid. She's designed to withstand everything. Everything about her is absolutely solid.
It's absolutely solid.
It is built like a tank.
It is, and that's what it is. It's the tank of the seas.
Yeah.
So what it needs to be is it was designed to cope with the worst. So if it's designed to cope with the worst, all the rest is easy for it. So that's what she's been designed for. There's no reason why she can't get across the Atlantic. No reason at all. It's going to be, on days, one hell of a ride. It's going to be like probably the best fairground ride that you haven't paid for.
It goes beyond that as well. Like, it's going to be mentally challenging.
It's going to be hugely mentally challenging. You're in an area that is so small for all the 60, 70, 80 days.
On your own, in your own mind.
In your own mind, with nothing to interact with. It's not as if you could say, oh, I'll do a jigsaw today, or I'm going to read a book. You just haven't got that. There's not the space for it. So yes, it's going to be exceptionally challenging.
You're a strong guy though. You've got that mental head about you. I think you've got what it takes to do it.
I have got what it takes, and I'm
going
to do it.
I've got what it takes.
Yeah.
I remember when on the Iceland trip, you sadly lost your mum.
Yes.
To cancer. How did you deal with that? Because to go back to Iceland and come back across the Atlantic.
Hardest bit. So the boat had been damaged. Obviously, we'd had the spreader damage on it. It had been repaired, but it wasn't right. So I had your normal shrouds, standing rigging for the mast, but I had an awful lot more tied on just to make it so that everything was effectively good enough to get back across the Atlantic. So I had that to deal with. Knew that my rig was an issue.
Things to take your mind off it. As much as you can have your mind off something horrific like that.
Yeah. The thing with my mum was absolutely fantastic. She was just brilliant the whole way through life. There was not a day that we fell out or anything like that. We just had a fantastic relationship. So it was a huge one to know that I had got off the boat with a mother alive that I could phone, knowing she was really ill, jumped on a plane with the help of so many people. Icelandic people were just like, come on, we'll take you. So they got me to the airport then. Someone got me food because they knew I hadn't got time. I only had a tiny little bag. So I got home. I got back into England, and a friend of mine, he drove to the airport in the middle of the night to collect me, take me home. So it was brilliant. But then, when I went back out to the boat, it kind of brought it all back. Last time I was here, I was with my mum. I had my mum to phone and speak to. So it was a friend, and she had helped. Obviously had sponsored a fair chunk towards the passage. Not towards the passage, sorry, towards the playground equipment. So yeah, it was hard. And it's a long way home.
It just shows you. It just shows your strength, your mental strength, and I think it's something you should be
not do it.
No. It's a state of mind.
It is. It is a state of mind.
Yeah. What does your wife Tracy and Poppy, your daughter, think of this? Have they got views on it, or?
Tracy's known from day dot when she first met me that there was always this kind of side of me that I wanted to do things, and I did unusual things. In fact, our first holiday that we went on to, before we'd only been dating a couple of months. I think I booked the holiday, and it was out to Turkey to a place called Oladenis. And what you do is you fly off the top of the mountains with your own paraglider, and what you do is your wife's laying on the beach having nice relaxing drinks, and there's her boyfriend at the time flying over and collapsing his wing and falling out the sky effectively, and then trying to reinflate the wing. And then even on my course, I think it was only 7 of us, but I think 3 of them ended up in hospital because it's kind of extreme. So she realised right from straight away that this is going to be a hard one.
I think Poppy as well. We've had Poppy in the workshop this week doing her radio calls, even testing the radios out, which was fun. Yeah. She's very proud of her dad, I think.
Yeah, she's proud. Very proud. She's proud.
She's got a good relationship with her.
Yes, and it took a while for her to start with. She looked at this thing when I brought it back, and let's face it, it didn't look like you'd want to cross a pond in it. So it's had a huge amount done to it, and there's still more to do it, a lot more to do to it. But it'll all get there, it'll all get sorted. I'm working on it as often as I can.
Oh, that's nice. Fishing boat coming in. Give him a second to get out of our way.
Yeah.
Coming up the Irish Sea.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Wow, I'd love to be out on one of those. I've always wanted to. In fact, that's an example of it. I actually phoned Whitehaven Marina, asked them if I could go out on a fishing vessel in really rough conditions, just because I wanted to experience it. They actually put me in touch with a person up in Aberdeen, so it's going to be a lot rougher up there, and it just hasn't clicked because then COVID thing. So that's just reminded me to get back out on that. Maybe I've got a big adventure planned.
There's another film shoot in the making. Well, I think we've had a good couple of days. I've enjoyed that.
Yeah. And we're going to have a lot more.
We are. It was good training to be out on the ocean. We've got, obviously you're working on big sea at the minute, so it's nice to get out on the Mini. You've got that. You're quite lucky there.
Yeah.
Just cracking, man. And I've had a good few days.
So have I.
Thank you for letting me have a little interview with you.
No, thank you for helping me. It's brilliant.
It's been fun.
I'm just numb.